Hello, I'm Leonardo Puglisi. It's Sunday, the 21st of August. You're watching 6 News. Our top stories tonight. WA's Liberal leader says Scott Morrison should have been transparent about being sworn in to 5 ministerial portfolios while he was PM as more coalition MPs respond to calls for him to resign. Well, questions are now being raised about how the story was broken and who knew what when. Also, more Teal independents could soon be announced to run in the Victorian state election in November, but they could be faced with a challenge if they run in the March 2023 New South Wales election. Votes swing away from the ALP in Michael Gunner's old seat as Territory Labor claims victory in the Fanny Bay by-election overnight. And over 24 people dead in Turkey in 2 separate horror crashes within hours of each other, where a bus and a truck hit emergency crews responding to previous accidents. Good evening. The West Australian Liberal leader has said former Prime Minister Scott Morrison should have been transparent following revelations he was sworn into 5 portfolios in 2020 and 2021 without the knowledge of many ministers and the general public. In an interview with 6 News partner WAMN News, Dr David Honey has revealed what he's made of the scandal dubbed Ministergate as calls for Morrison to resign from Parliament ramp up. The questions are now being raised about who knew what when, with the whole story being broken by 2 journalists in a book now being criticised for sitting on the story some believe could have swayed how people vote and potentially even caused a Liberal Party spill. Porter Lincoln Holmes has the details.
It's the scandal being dubbed Ministergate.
No, don't verbal me, stop that.
When he was PM, Morrison became the Health Minister, Resources Minister, Home Affairs Minister, Finance Minister and Treasurer throughout 2020. Only Greg Hunt was told about the arrangement, with the general public also kept in the dark. It's also been revealed Governor-General David Hurley's diary makes no mention of handing the additional powers to Scott Morrison.
I found over a period of time and obliquely that he had the power to deal with the PEP 11 decision. Right, I'd already negotiated the extra minister. I'd negotiated the extra person in ERC. I'd started the process of a massive negotiation for a regional package, right? So, and I've said at the start, the decision that I found out about was something that happened before me. And then you asked about, and now after this, I know you'll go back to a hyperventilating bench, and the ladies and the blokes at IGA paying for their groceries will still be arguing about other things in the world.
Was this a decision in the Liberal Party's interests or the national interest?
Well, that's a decision, that's a discussion you can have with them. I'm going to worry about it. How many times do you want to ask me this, Dave? This is like the 7th time. It's on file, you can watch it yourself, there's a press conference. What else do you want?
LNP MP Karen Andrews has already called for him to resign, while some other coalition MPs haven't gone that far. They believe he should have been more transparent. Today, WA Liberal leader Dr David Honey had this to say, speaking to 6 News partner WAMN News.
I think in everything, this is something we constantly say about the state Labor government. They're not transparent. I think it's important, no surprises to people. I think it would have been wise for the Prime Minister Morrison, as he was, to be transparent about that. I think if you go back, I have a bit of sympathy for the fact that it was a perilous time. Now, he had to worry about the whole of Australia, and no one knew what was going to happen with COVID. So there was a situation where if ministers got ill, there could be critical activities that couldn't be carried out. And so, as I understand it, the Prime Minister Morrison lighted on a plan to have a backup minister, and in that case himself. It's clear, I think the Prime Minister should have been transparent in what he was doing. If that had happened, then I doubt this would be a news story, because it would have all been known at the time and people would have understood the reasons for it.
But now questions are being raised about who knew what and when, with the entire story being broken by 2 journalists in a book who both work for The Australian. Benson is believed to be a friend of Morrison, and the former PM said he told them the information. Some have now criticised them for sitting on the story, which may have changed how people vote, even caused a spill in the Liberal Party that likely would have seen Josh Frydenberg become Prime Minister. The story was reported in The Australian last Saturday, but largely ignored until late on Sunday, before it gained national attention in the days that followed. Morrison remaining firm, still refusing to quit, even as pressure mounts. Lincoln Holmes, Six News.
Well, Stuart Jeffries, a Six News contributor, has got a piece on this on our website right now, SIXNewsAU.com. Stuart, on a scale of common occurrence to never ever before seen, how unprecedented is this whole portfolio scandal?
Well, we have seen it before. I guess there was the Gough Whitlam situation in the 1970s, where it was just him and one other minister had all the portfolios, but that was public. It being secret has not been done before. It's completely unprecedented having secret portfolios like this.
Now, a lot of people want the Governor-General to be sacked over this now. It doesn't seem like he will, but to my understanding, theoretically, it can happen. How would that happen?
Yeah, so our system in Australia allows the Prime Minister can write a letter to the Queen, say, can you just please remove the Governor-General, and she basically invites to follow it. It's the inverse of what happened with John Kerr and Gough Whitlam, basically. The Prime Minister can dismiss the Governor-General to the Queen and vice versa.
And given the whole involvement of the Queen, do you reckon that the Republican movement here in Australia may try and use this to campaign on, or as an issue, as a reason why we need to leave the monarchy?
Yes, although I will say that on that note, the Governor-General affidavit has meant to. So the Governor-General is obliged by the Prime Minister, and he did that. So it actually could be a worse situation if the Governor-General did not follow Morrison's advice. It would arguably be more of a crisis than it is right now. So in terms of promoting change in the Constitution around a referendum on becoming a republic, probably not right now. It could be brought up again in a future campaign to become a republic, but not right now.
Just quickly, Morrison says he won't resign over this, although there are doubts he'll last the whole term. Cookie is a very safe Liberal seat, but I know, for example, when Bob Hawke resigned, it swung away from Labor and an independent got elected at that by-election. So should we be, ruling out a potential Teal gain if there is a by-election?
We are looking at the Teals and the Green Wave from the last election means that anything can happen.
Stuart Jeffrey, good to catch up.
Thank you.
Well, Michael Balderstone has told Six News it was a total surprise to learn the legalised marijuana party had applied for registration with the Victorian Electoral Commission several weeks after legalised cannabis did the same. Balderstone says he knows nothing about the party, which doesn't appear to have a social media presence or even a website. VEC rules state there's nothing stopping two parties with similar, or in the case of Family First Victoria versus Family First Victoria, the exact same name, from applying for registration. This means the election is almost certainly going to see legalised cannabis and legalised marijuana, Family First Victoria and Family Matters Australia after Family First Victoria pulled out, plus the Australian Democrats, the New Democrats and the already registered Liberal Democrats. Legalised cannabis won 2 upper house seats of the 2021 WA election where they had the group voting ticket system in place, and given it is currently used in Victoria, analysts aren't ruling out possible gains for the party, which also did relatively well in the Senate this year. And as the Victorian state election draws closer with less than 100 days to go, there's growing speculation about the impact so-called Teal independents may have, including potentially holding the balance of power. Naomi Coltman, a lawyer who worked for 2 ALP MPs and was in the party until last week, has spoken to Spin Check on Six News about why she's running for the seat of Caulfield, currently held by Deputy Liberal leader David Southwick, but now considered notionally Labor.
Had been approached on several occasions by the Labor Party. Nothing formal, but the idea was floated whether I would like to run as a candidate for them. And it's possible that if I had wanted to run as a Labor candidate for Caulfield this election, it's possible I could have if I had wanted to.
So they possibly approached you this election?
Not this election, no, not this election. In 2018, there was some discussions held whether I would like to run for the seat, and I declined the offer at the time.
So where do your views actually differ from Labor, though? Because I know this is a Liberal seat, but based on the latest redistribution, I should state, it is notionally Labor.
I don't think 2018 results can be taken as any sort of guarantee, and even if it's notionally Labor, you've had a pandemic, 2 sets of lockdowns, bushfires, catastrophic flood. So I wouldn't agree with that assessment. I think it's an interesting seat to watch.
The full interview is available on our YouTube channel right now. Other Teal independents are also possibly set to be announced, with The Age tonight reporting Councillor Clark Martin may run for the Liberal-held seat of Sandringham, which was reported as one Teals could target, as well as Felicity Frederick, an unsuccessful Liberal pre-selection candidate who may be running against Brighton Liberal MP James Newbury. In addition, Carol Altman has been announced as taking on Liberal Roma Britnell in the marginal seat of South West Coast. Hawthorn independents and Kew independents have also confirmed to 6 News they're looking for candidates in the Labor and Liberal seats, with a grand total of 11 seats now reported as possible Teal targets. If they win even a couple seats, it could push the coalition back in their hopes of gaining the 18 seats they need for a majority government. Another possibility is that they may hold the balance of power after the election and could have to negotiate minority government deals. It's understood Climate 200 may be backing a number of these candidates. Naomi Coltman already saying to 6 News preliminary discussions have been held about potential funding, but no conclusion reached. Then the attention of Teals turns to the 2023 New South Wales election, but that's where they may find a hurdle: optional preferential voting. Now, this means you can just vote for one candidate, and if they don't get your first preference, your vote, or go to get ahead on first preferences, your vote will exhaust. It's not like group voting tickets. Now, we've seen major parties promoting just vote one before, and we know that preferences from many Labor voters and independents got them over the line in a bunch of lower house seats in the federal election. Currently, the New South Wales lower house has 6 independents. Now, a group called North Sydney's Independents, which backed now MP Kylie Tink at the federal election, says they're turning their attention to the Liberal-held seats of Willoughby, North Shore and Lane Cove. Willoughby, of course, being held by former Premier Gladys Berejiklian until a by-election this year. If you're interested, by the way, in a full A to Z list of all candidates running in the Vic election, do head to our website, SIXNewsAU.com. Well, Labor looks like they've managed to hold on to the Northern Territory seat of Fanny Bay, claiming victory after a few hours after polls closed for the by-election last night. But it wasn't an easy victory, with the party seeing a swing away from them on both the first preference and two-party preferred basis. The Country Liberals and the Greens both saw their primary rise compared to the results from the 2020 Territory election, while both independent candidates are sitting at around 1 to 3%. The by-election was caused by the resignation of former Chief Minister Michael Gunner, with Labor picking Brent Potter to replace him. The victory means the state of the NT Legislative Assembly will not change. Next up in terms of by-elections are Pembroke in Tassie and North West Central in WA, both coming up next month. The New South Wales Government will destroy all beehives in an expanded varroamite zone. The zone includes parts of Newcastle, the Central Coast and Port Stephens regions, and all beehives will now be destroyed, regardless of whether they are free of the mite or not. Authorities say the move is needed to fully exterminate the mites, and beekeepers who have had their hives, honey or equipment destroyed will be eligible for compensation. Recreational beekeepers could be able to claim $550 per hive, and commercial operators could be reimbursed the estimated market value of their hives and honey at a minimum, according to the New Daily. Police say they're looking for more witnesses following last weekend's shooting at Canberra Airport. ACT policing say that while they've spoken to many, investigators believe there were people in and around the check-in area at the time of the shooting that have so far not come forward. 5 shots were allegedly fired by a man in the terminal. No one was injured. Queensland's Police Minister has slammed what he's called deplorable comments made by a senior officer. Chief Superintendent Ray Roder reportedly made a lewd comment at a conference in March. Follows the resignation of Deputy Commissioner Paul Taylor after revelations he made an inappropriate comment towards a colleague, or about a colleague, I should say. Ryan says he expects high standards from police officers at all times. It's been revealed that cocaine usage in Sydney has risen since lockdowns ended. The Sydney Morning Herald reports cocaine usage is higher in the New South Wales capital than anywhere else in the nation. Arrests rose in December 2021, with 275 cocaine use incidents reported. Data shows the post-lockdown period did see a rise in usage, but some believe it could be because of more policing rather than simply more people using it. There's growing concern about the spread of monkeypox in Melbourne, with health officials unable to find an explanation for at least 20 new cases in the past fortnight. There have been just over 91 monkeypox cases in Australia, with 40 in Victoria. The monkeypox strain that is infecting Australians is thought to have a mortality rate of about 3%, according to the ABC. Over 24 people are dead in Turkey in two separate horror crashes. In the first accident, local authorities say fire crews and paramedics were responding to one crash when a passenger bus crashed, slid to the accident site and hit people on the ground. 3 firefighters, 2 paramedics and 2 journalists were among the dead, with the rest of the fatalities on the bus. Then just hours later, a large truck hit another site where first responders were reportedly, killing at least 16 and injuring many more. News Corp has been mocked for what's been called an embarrassing blunder after appearing to write a report on the wrong game of footy. In the VFL, it was a bloodbath, with Werribee defeating the Northern Bullants 29-17, 191 to 0-10-10. But the report published in the Herald Sun and news.com.au both claimed it was Brisbane who defeated Melbourne, which of course is the opposite of what happened in the AFL the night before. What really happened was Brisbane's VFL team defeated Melbourne's reserves team Casey 71-57. Not exactly what you'd call a bloodbath. The Werribee Northern game is one of the biggest winning margins in VFL history, but not the biggest. Geelong reserves thumped Bendigo back in 2013 to 27-26, which is the biggest winning margin since the VFL name was introduced in 1996. While the biggest ever scorer goes back to the VFA days of 1986, Williamstown defeating Camberwell 347-32. Taking a look at what's making news on SIXNewsAU.com right now, and a new edition of Commonwealth Knowledge is out right now, exploring the difficulty of picking a Minister for Foreign Affairs. Of course, Penny Wong currently serves as Australia's Foreign Minister. Also, Cheney for President. US Representative Liz Cheney suggests she may run for the Republican Party presidential nominee in 2024 after losing her House of Reps primary. Ex-President Donald Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis already seen as frontrunners in the 2024 race. And to look at pictures at the federal election of Kooyong on federal election day 2019, 3 years before Monique Ryan defeated Josh Frydenberg in what was previously a safe Liberal seat. We've dug into the archives and found some images of some candidates you may not have even heard of. Don't forget to sign up to our newsletter, 6 News Now, for more on our original reporting. Link to do so on our website. As always, 6NewsAU.com. And now it's Arvin and Melly with a look at what's coming up later tonight on WAMN News.
Thanks, Leo. Tonight on WAMN News, nowhere to charge. The electric car rollout in WA faces major hurdles as the McGowan government is urged to support retrofitting issues in old apartments. An exclusive interview coming up.
Strikes are on the cards as public sector protests continue for higher wage rises.
Yangebup community celebrates following the withdrawal of an appeal for a proposed metal crushing facility.
Calls to relax no pet rental laws in Western Australia to accommodate furry friends. And later, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment. Join us tonight on the WAMN News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thanks both Arvin and Melly. They're now taking a look at tomorrow's weather forecast right across the country. Brisbane partly cloudy, 22 degrees, 21 in Sydney, heavy clouds, 14 degrees in Canberra, rain 16 in Melbourne. Similar conditions in Hobart, 11 degrees there. Adelaide wet weather also expected, 13, 26 in Alice Springs, 17 and sunny in Perth, and in Darwin a warm top of 32. Before we go tonight, recapping the top story here on 6 News this hour, and WA Liberal leader Dr David Honey says Scott Morrison should have been transparent about being sworn into 5 ministerial portfolios while he was Prime Minister, as more Coalition MPs respond to calls for him to resign, but questions are now being raised about how the story was broken and who knew what when. And just finally, a reminder that with the Vic election coming up, less than 100 days to go, it might seem like a while away, but again, it is relatively close. We do want to hear from you about what you want to see. Now, we're going to do a lot more candidate interviews. If you like them, you can check out the Naomi Coleman one on Spin Check. And of course, we'll have a big focus on independents and minor parties. And of course, live coverage on election night. But apart from that, we want to hear from you. We want to make sure you are involved in this coverage because we want to make sure what we cover actually matters to you. So let us know. Comment section, email, 6NewsAU, contact at 6NewsAU.com, and we will listen to your feedback. We really want to hear it. You can come in anytime. DM's always open. So we really do want to hear from you because this is going to be a huge election and one that people will be interested in regardless of whether they live in Victoria. But they're only going to be interested if they are seeing something that matters to them, and something covered matters to them. So again, 6newsau.com, check it out, send us our feedback via there. And that is 6 News for this Sunday evening. You can stay up to date with all the latest headlines by heading to our website, SIXNewsAU.com, and by following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Lead. Just search 6NewsAU to find us. Help keep us independent as well by donating just $4 a month and receive exclusive benefits. Patreon.com/6NewsAU. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Goodbye.